I'm going to start the game. There will be 10 questions today. Okay, let me pause and share my screen. So the question was, blank is the study of evolution of cognition and behavior using principles of natural selection. And the answers were sociocognitive psychology, evolutionary psychology, vertebrate psychology, or behavioral anthropology. The answer is evolutionary psychology. Because of studying the evolution of cognition. So that is the key term there. Go ahead and do the next question. Okay, let me share my screen again. That's mainly for people watching the recap. Um, so the question, yes, I am screen sharing. The question was, evolutionary psychology has been criticized for hindsight bias, functional fixedness, the unethical treatment of human participants, or the use of unrepresentative samples. So the correct answer is hindsight bias. Functional fixedness is like a weird unrelated concept about like if you can find like a dual purpose for an item, like if you were going to use a pen to like do your hair or something unrelated, there's no unethical treatment of human participants because there aren't any human participants in evolutionary psychology because it's all about hindsight of how we think people acted in the past. So all the theories are about our hindsight about how we think people acted. I can see where you are going with the use of unrepresentative samples, but there really is no sample because it's kind of based on like assumptions about the past. So let's go ahead and do the next question. Okay. So the question is, the Ash studies on line length judgments suggest A, people will often conform if everybody else in the group makes the same decision. B, people are very reluctant to conform. C, no matter how many people resist, other people will still likely conform. Or D, compliance tactics are stronger determinants of behavior than authority commands. So the Ash study is where they had like a projector and they showed like three lines or something, and then they like showed another one. They're like, which one is the same length? I might have those details a little fuzzy, but the concept is that like everybody, there's like seven people and you're the last one, and everybody's like sitting around a table and everybody gives a wrong answer, and you're like, you're like, what is happening right now? Like, but you're probably just gonna give the same length that you're like at high risk of giving like the wrong answer because everybody else said it, even though you're like, uh, okay, so what it shows is that people will often conform if everybody else is saying it, even if it's like very weird. So it's not that people are reluctant. It's not matter how many people resist, others conform. That doesn't highly make sense because you're not really conforming anymore at that point. And then the compliance tactics thing, that's not really related to the Ash line study. So let's go ahead and do the next question. Okay. Okay. So let me share my screen. The question is about door in the face. Unfortunately, everybody got this question wrong, which is kind of, I feel bad. I thought I taught it well, but you will be learning it well now. Mrs. Axel needs somebody to work the late shift on a Friday night. If she uses door in the face, she will ask somebody to cover an hour on Friday, then ask her the rest of the shift, ask somebody to cover Friday and Saturday and Sunday, remind somebody you gave them time, she gave them time off the last time they asked for it, or provide somebody with a list of other people who have worked this Friday shift. And so the answer, almost everybody put foot in the door. Almost everybody put ask them to cover an hour, and then was like, okay, then can you actually do the whole thing? That's foot in the door. Door in the face is that you asked if they could do Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and then you're like, okay, can you just do Friday? Door in the face is like if you want $10, you ask somebody for like $100, and then you're like, okay, can I just have $10? We did talk about this in an in-class activity, because people put some kind of funny answers. But that is door in the face. So make sure that you know that for the test. Okay. So this question is research on the possible hormonal influence on aggression indicate that the correct answer is the gender difference in aggression is the strongest when you're earlier in life and then it wanes when you are an older adult. That's a correct answer because whenever like men get older, their testosterone decreases, and that would make them more similar to women regarding aggression because testosterone, which women also have, is one of the biggest, I wouldn't say the biggest, one of the biggest hormones involved in aggression, and that wanes later in life in men. And so men and women are more similar in aggression as you get to be like a senior citizen. So it's not that they're unrelated to hormones. It's not that administering it reduces it in animals, or that it's only in animals. It's just that when you get older, you see that kind of decline. Okay, so this question is about the elaboration likelihood model of persuasion, which is what that central route and peripheral route thing is called. Um, so the answer was the central route. The central route to persuasion is the one that's the most likely to create long-lasting attitudes and behavior changes. That's like when you give like an argument with like information, like all the information, the pros, maybe the cons, like that type of thing. That's going to have more lasting change. Whereas the peripheral route is like you're not really paying like that much attention. Like maybe the person saying it is like attractive or like saying stuff that sounds cool, but there's not really that much substance. That's going to have less lasting changes. So everybody knew it was either the peripheral or central route because that's the elaboration likelihood model that we talked about. But the central is the one that's like the real information, like cover to cover, and that has a more lasting change. Okay, so the Milgram study. Um, the major variable that affected the outcome was the legitimacy of the authority figure, not the location. The location was just like a normal, probably at a university. Not witnessing defiance. Nobody witnessed defiance, and not the compensation. They probably got paid like, I don't know, not that much. But the Milgram study is the shock machine study where there's like a teacher and a learner. but all the learners are actually actors. And you're like in this room and you're like connected to another room with like this learner actor, and they're supposed to be learning vocabulary words. And there's this like instructor to you that's like watching you, I guess. And so you have this shock machine, and every time they get the vocabulary word wrong, you're supposed to shock them, but really it's fake, but like they're acting like it's real. And every time they get it wrong, you like give a more intense shock. And like then the participant like eventually starts like crying and then like screaming or whatever. But there's like this researcher, he has like these four lines that are saying like you must continue, you have no choice but to continue the study or whatever, and is trying to like make you do it, but like you're not like handcuffed to the shock machine, like you know what I mean. But like tons of people go all the way to the end, even when like the actor pretends to like pass out, or like at the very end it like says like XXX, and like a lot of people went to that. And so basically it showed that like people just felt like they had to do it, and because of the authority figure, but like if you really think about it, like they didn't really have to do it. Then there was a replication study because this was done like, I don't know, like 50 years ago or more. And so they didn't have any women in it. And so they did a replication study more recently. And the women actually were more likely to be like, I'm getting out of here, like, I'm out. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, it's all about the authority figure. I guess the experiment did have like a location where it seemed like that could have happened, but it wasn't really that important. Okay, so we have good success on this question, which is when men and women want empathy and understanding, they're most likely to turn to a coworker, a man, a spouse, or a woman. And the answer is a woman. One person said spouse, but people are more likely to turn to a woman if they want empathy. Like, I'm a girl's girl, you know what I mean? Like, girls, they just in our culture are more empathetic in general. Like that is the cultural expectation. And so people are the most likely to turn to a woman rather than a male spouse if like empathy is what they are specifically seeking. And it's not going to be true in all cases, but that's just kind of like the average. Okay. So this question is blank proposes there are two different routes to persuasion. And that will be the elaboration likelihood model. So the elaboration likelihood model is what the central and peripheral route thing is called. So not terror management, not regulatory focus, not this health behavior thing, but just I would really encourage to memorize like elaboration likelihood model. Central route gives you all the information. Peripheral route is like you're not really paying attention or something really flashy. Okay, one more question for today. Okay, trying to click share. My mouse doesn't want to click. There we go. Very excited. Everybody got this question right, except somebody didn't have enough time to answer it. That's okay. Um, the question was, Not has heard a new song over and over on the radio, and now she really likes it. So this is an example of the mere exposure effect, not the sleeper effect, not a primacy or recency, but the mere exposure. The mere exposure is just like the more times you hear it or hear about it or see it, the more you like it, and music is like a classic example of that. So now I think this game will give a leaderboard of the winners. Let's see. Starburst. Okay, number one. And then we have Julia and Maya. I think on your end, it will probably show like a little stage with the winners. It doesn't show that on the professor end, but well done. Um, does anybody have any general questions about either the content or about the test or the paper, anything like that? Okay, awesome. Well, just email me if something comes up. But thanks for coming today. And I'm gonna stop the recording and then stay on for a minute so I can write your name down so you get 3 points of extra credit on your test for taking the time. Your test grade will come in normally, and then later that day I will add 3 points manually. So just go ahead and stay on until I let you guys know I got everybody's